Death, rage, the cold, dead planet, the cold, dead heart of man, the warm, life-giving heart of a father, ghosts, gravity, black holes, higher dimensions, being sucked into the void, damnation, death, rage, intervention, salvation. Interstellar has a lot to say. It peers into the most pressing and heavy things weighing on humanity and takes a crack at addressing them. Most of the time, when a film tries to address the oldest problems known to man, it falls flat on its face. Why? Because modern materialist philosophies that have predominated for the past 150 years are shallow solutions that cannot really touch these deeper conundrums. But the writers of Interstellar did something special for their deep exploration of the human condition. They extended themselves farther than most and managed to touch on deep truths. How deep? Some of the deepest ever put to film. Truths that speak on the saving power of love, the cost of preserving life, and ultimately, why the love of a father for his child is the only thing that will save the world. Is our world coming to an end? Well, if you look at the news lately and the way society seems to keep spiraling into near cataclysmic territory, then it might feel like that. But it's more than that, isn't it? That motif throughout history of the world's imminent demise is prominent because people are always on the precipice of demise. We are about to die at any moment, and if we don't die prematurely, we slowly deteriorate until one day we do die. Death is inevitable, and the clock is ticking. So there's always that tension, a constant fear and dread of the end. It's so constant that if we don't come to terms with it, it can overwhelm us, creeping up through our subconscious into terrible imaginings, apocalyptic visions, and dreams of the end. In Interstellar, we see one of these terrible imaginings, a blight on all crops and vegetation that will eventually lead to mass starvation and oxygen depletion, the end of all human life.
The last people to starve will be the first to suffocate.
So, unto the knowledge of our end, which fills us with fear, what does the film have to say? Many things. One thing it says is to fight against the oncoming darkness of death.
Rage against the dying of the light.
The movie often quotes the poem written by Dylan Thomas, "Do not go gentle into that good night," and suggests that if we're going to die, we should rage against the end, not letting a slow fade into darkness be our legacy, but a blaze of glory, if you will, one that gives light to the people and generations that we leave behind. This rage against the end is one of the central themes of the film. The main character, Cooper, joins NASA to find a new planet for the inhabitants of the dying Earth. He's willing to leave his family behind and risk his life in order to preserve their future and the future of the human race. He's raging against the end and keeping a level head against the oncoming apocalypse by channeling his rage and his fight into saving his family, a motive that properly guides his actions even when the pressure of saving the world is bearing down on him. Clearly, he's the right man for the job. But what if Cooper never had such a pure motive? What if his priorities were radically askew? What would his reaction to the Atlas level of pressure weighing on his shoulders be then? Interstellar doesn't just explore the positive effects of raging against the dying of the light, only pointing to how, yes, it can help preserve the next generation. It also points to how raging against the end can drive us to some insane extremes. Fear of death is a caustic motivator because its primary feature is fear, a potent emotional and physical state that makes people fight, flee, freeze, fawn, or even become so cold and calculating that they lose their humanity altogether. This last feature is seen in Dr. Mann, a scientist who is commissioned to research a planet in another galaxy in order to find out if it can support life. It cannot, but he lies about its prospects to NASA so someone can come and rescue him. Man is said to be the best of us, that is, the scientific community, and by extension humanity, but he is in fact the worst of humanity. Dr. Mann is representative of the darkness at the heart of mankind. And the planet that Dr. Man was sent to, and is named after him, is a reflection of this darkness. It is cold, brutal, and hostile towards life. This is seen in man's secret guiding force behind his mission. Along with Professor Brand, the overseer of the Interstellar mission, he believes that it is his job to find a planet for a select few to keep the human species alive, while the rest of the people on Earth starve. Dr. Man follows in a long line of seemingly intelligent men who, in the face of death and suffering, think it wise to coldly let millions and even billions die for the sake of the chosen few. People like Thomas Malthus, who feared that the population of Earth could grow beyond available resources, and proposed that in order to keep the population down and thus spare the starvation of the human species, the commission of war, forced famines, disease and bad health, and sexual abstinence should be implemented. Adolf Hitler, who adopted the philosophy of eugenics, which held that inferior genes should be eliminated from the human population, and proceeded to exterminate around 11 million people who he thought fit this mold. Joseph Stalin, who killed around 20 million people through assassination and forced famine, who he deemed to be enemies of Soviet Russia. Mao Zedong, who, similar to Stalin, killed all who were against communist China and caused a famine for the sake of progress, resulting in around 65 million deaths. All these real people, as well as, unfortunately, many others, had the same goal as Dr. Man, to create a better future for mankind, even if that meant countless people would die. Man continues to reveal his true colors by murdering a member of Cooper's crew, attempting to murder Cooper, and by trying to steal the craft the crew came in on, so he can carry on his cold, inhumane mission. In the end, his actions nearly cost the salvation of humanity that would later come through Cooper. So while the Dylan Thomas poem is a nice notion, raging against the dying of the light is a human solution to the end that fails to truly save anyone. The problem, as exemplified in Dr. Man, is that humanity has unsuppressible darkness at their center, making every step taken forward lead to 2 steps taken back.
Well, we got this far in our brains, farther than any human in history.
Well, not far enough.
And people, for all their progress in various fields, cannot strip death, the fear of death, nor the soul's state of lifelessness from anyone. So while we try and try, ultimately, man cannot save man. But perhaps something beyond man can. In our world, when it comes to death, the fear that evokes the rage we feel against the end is nothing but frustrating. It's without doubt natural to dread death and to want to stop it somehow, to fight against the end until it finally arrives. But what exactly is this fight supposed to accomplish? We can't stop death. Is our fight to procure a better quality of life for the next generation, for the furtherance of our genes, even though all these successive people will also die? Or does the fear of death and the rage against it express something deeper going on within us? A secret, fretful prayer unto something higher and beyond, who is capable of saving us from death? And hope against hope, did this higher someone preempt our plea for intervention before we were even aware of our need for it? Is there actually a way to stop death? To put an end to the fear of it? That force that has haunted the human race their whole life? In the film, it is apparently future people who placed a wormhole to another galaxy in space for NASA to find, so the events that would save humanity could be set into motion.
A wormhole is not a naturally occurring phenomenon.
Someone placed it there. And whoever they are, they appear to be looking out for us.
But in the real world, is there a parallel to these future humans? Who, if anyone, is planning to save us from the state of death we were born into, or from the oncoming apocalypse known as the end of our lives? In the Bible, death and the fear of death is rectified through Jesus Christ. Since the children are made of flesh and blood, it's logical that the Savior took on flesh and blood in order to rescue them by his death. By embracing death, taking it into himself, he destroyed the devil's hold on death and freed all who cower through life, scared to death of death. Simply put, God became a man, entering the death-filled rat race in order to rescue men from death. And as it turns out, the devil's been running the show through the fear of death, stoking that fear into a raging fire that could blaze into the chaos and destruction he so loves to sow. In Interstellar, Dr. Mann is a clear embodiment of this chaos, seen in how his fear of death turned him murderous, cowardly, and coldly detached at the prospect of most of the human race suffering and dying. But God chose to become a man and die, so the rule of the devil over us, and the predominance and imminence of death that we all live under, could die with him. As a person leaves the world behind and embraces the gift that is new life through Christ, the problem of lifelessness in our spirits is permanently done away with and replaced with eternal life, the state in which our lives are enveloped by and go on with God forever. So, does Interstellar reflect this biblical truth that the only solution to the fear of death is found through the sacrifice of Christ? Well, it actually does. We see this truth embodied in the character of Cooper and the theme of love. While Cooper, indeed, rages against the end to save his children, ultimately it's love that is his main motivator. In the same way, it wasn't rage that inspired God to sacrifice himself for us, but love. And rage, for as often as it is mentioned in the first half of the movie, is not the main theme of Interstellar, but more of a jumping-off point. Nearly an hour and a half into the film, the idea of love as something that transcends the dimensions of time and space, connects people, guides them, and overall saves them from peril and death is introduced.
Love isn't something we invented. It's observable, powerful. Love is the one thing we're capable of perceiving that transcends dimensions of time and space.
Upon Interstellar's release, this theme of love being a force that transcends time and space was actually made fun of and criticized. Maybe it was the way it was introduced, seemingly out of nowhere halfway through the film, but the movie's enduring appeal is probably rooted in this central theme. Interstellar decided to go deep and transcend the banal solutions for the most fundamental problems known to man. The writers could have played it safe and said something cliched like understanding, cooperation, or self-belief is the way people will survive, which would make for a far more flat and lackluster movie. But instead they shot for the stars and embraced the fact that love is not just something nice to have in our lives, but is what causes life to thrive and survive. This is reflected in a very famous verse, John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. So, it was an act of love that God chose to save the world, to rescue anyone from the grip of death and the devil if they only choose to believe in his Son. Like Interstellar, the Bible is a love story. One is about the love of a father for his daughter, and the other is about the love of the Heavenly Father for the world. Both are also about the attempt of this father to save their children from death, one from a physical death, and the other from a death of the spirit or soul. So Cooper is an illusion for Christ in this sense. He even sacrifices his life in a last-ditch effort to retrieve the information from the center of a black hole so the equation of gravity could be completed and people could leave the dying Earth and live successfully on space stations. But he doesn't die flying into the black hole. Instead, he finds a fifth-dimensional world filled with endless iterations of his daughter's bedroom throughout time. Curious. But why? He surmises that people from the future made this extra-dimensional space so that Cooper could communicate with his daughter the information concerning the center of the black hole. He also surmises that the way this is possible is because of love. The love he has for his daughter, and she for him, is the way this message sent across time and space could successfully be transmitted to her. In the Bible, there is a striking parallel to this scenario and visual of Cooper lovingly reaching out to save his child through time and space from the fifth dimension. Is seen in the description of God, the loving Father, working through his Son Jesus Christ to reach across time and space to save his own children. Hebrews 2:17 through 18 says, "For this reason he had to be made like them, fully human in every way, in order that he might become a merciful and faithful high priest in service to God, and that he might make atonement for the sins of the people. Because he himself suffered when he was tempted, he is able to help those who are being tempted." This passage lays out for us that Jesus needed to become a man in every way we are, so that he could relate to, touch, and cover the areas where we need assistance. This ongoing act of love for all people began from the moment God chose to become a man, and will continue forever. He's acting as a high priest for our souls, with all authority to strip us of sins and save us from darkness and death, not just once, but for the rest of our lives on this earth. Cooper likewise sets up all that is needed to save his daughter and the human race from death, transmitting the coordinates for NASA on the floor of her room, and the information for gravity in the watch he gave her. Cooper is trying to save humanity from dying, and Christ is trying to save our souls from spiritual death. Cooper is in the fifth dimension, invisibly intervening in his daughter's life to save her. Jesus is in the higher dimensions of heaven, providing his saving service for us, relaying physically invisible yet powerful intervention for us always, and even for those who don't believe.
It's not a ghost.
Christ is still attempting to save us, trying to get our attention, so that one day we will believe.
It was you. You were my ghost.
And be set free from the tight grip of death that has followed us our whole life. Now, I'm not claiming that the writers and filmmakers were referencing the Bible when they wrote these climactic scenes in the black hole or any other part of the movie. However, I think they were trying to answer these fundamental human problems addressed in the film by channeling as much truth as they could glean through the conduit of creativity. I believe the best storytellers have this knack for truth because where the world may desire to suppress the truth for a myriad of selfish and evil reasons, creativity is a desire within all people to look into the truth and express it in various and often beautiful ways. In this regard, Interstellar may be one of the deepest explorations of truth within a creative medium ever realized. That's a bold statement, but honestly, how many other stories depict a parallel to Christ in heaven acting as a high priest to save us from death? None that I know of. So let me know what you think of this take on the parallel between Interstellar and the Bible in the comments. And thank you for watching.